Adoption is a ginormous emotion that is shared by everyone in this whole journey. More often than not, we speak about adoption in the context of prospective parents, parents who have adopted, their journey, their emotional dilemmas that they have faced, how did they react and respond, etc., etc. And that's been like the crux of the conversations that we at Pragnaa have constantly had over the last few months that we've been conducting these monthly panel discussions. But what about the journey of an adoptive child? In recent years, we've been coming across a lot of adoptive parents who have had candid conversations, and who continue to engage in candid conversations about adoption with their children. They're not only normalizing the concept of adoption at the family level, but are also making like a lot of strident efforts to normalize the whole concept at the social level, because adoption is not something that is new or different from our culture and our tradition. It's always been there. But that's when it brings us to the question of why is there a slight stigma or a slight discomfort that's associated with this whole concept. But more importantly, what we at Pragnaa want to look at is, how do the children feel about this? How do our adoptees feel about this? How do they comprehend the concept of being a heart baby? And did they feel any emotional roadblocks? How easy were these conversations that they had with their families? We will be talking about these and much, much more today with three very wonderful ladies that we have with us. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's panel discussion with Pragnaa. Joining us on the panel are two beautiful young ladies and adoptees, Amisha and Ahana, and an adoptive parent, Dr. Shatabdi Das. She may be at the wonderful age of 18 years, but speak to her and you will realize the depth of her thinking. Meet Amisha, a student at Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies in Mumbai. Amisha is currently interning at WAIC, and she is also a child rights and welfare enthusiast. Welcome, Amisha, to today's panel discussion with Pragnaa.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming over. Ahana is the second of three siblings, and she is a digital marketing professional who is preparing for her master's program while she spreads her love for animals. She is a pet parent to a dog, and she lives with her parents and grandmother in Kolkata. Welcome, Ahana, to today's session.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you. And we also have with us a very eminent person on the panel today, Dr. Shatabdi Das. She is an adoptive parent, a doctor of philosophy in zoology. Dr. Shatabdi is, as I've just mentioned now, the heart mother to a 20-year-old, I suppose. Dr. Shatabdi, did I get that right?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. And she is the principal scientist in West Bengal University of Animal and Fishery Sciences in Kolkata, and she is also part of a movement to propagate the popularity of science in vernacular languages. She is also the executive committee member of Bangya Vigyan Parishad, founded by Acharya Satyendranath Bose. So welcome, Dr. Shatabdi Das, to today's panel discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, and before we begin, I would like to thank our media partners, iAsiaNewsMusic, for their continuous support and for broadcasting today's panel discussion live across their Facebook and YouTube channels to about 170 plus countries. Shout out to the CEO and head of iAsiaNewsMusic at their headquarters in Dallas, Texas, Dr. Krishna Puttaparthi, and to Anu Benakati, who is the COO of iAsia News, the parent channel, and to the dynamic team in Bangalore, the COO Vidya Sagar, Head of Creative Design and Technical Jayant, Head of Public Relations Vinuta Jayant, along with Kishore Bhatia from Dubai, and Social Media Manager Anindita. iAsiaNewsMusic, as I said, showcases its programs to 170 plus countries and has a viewership of over 10,000 audience. And I would recommend that you visit their website www.iasianews.net for all the current shows and exciting promos that they have. So to begin today's discussion, Amisha and Ahana, I'm going to keep this as an open question for both of you. When was the first time that you had like a very serious conversation with your parents or your siblings about your adoption, and how did it go?
Um,
Do you want to go
do
first,
you want to go
Sahana?
first,
Should I
Hannah?
take
Should
it?
I take it?
No, no, you can
No, no,
go
you
ahead
can
and
go
tell.
ahead and tell.
Oh, okay, sure.
Oh, okay, sure.
So,
So,
I was adopted
I
at
was
the age
adopted
of
at the age of
almost two and a half,
almost two and a
three.
half, three.
So, it was a
So,
vaguely
with a
known
vaguely
fact to me
known
that I
fact
was
to me that I was
adopted,
adopted,
but my parents
but
had
my
an
parents
open
had an
mind about
open mind
it.
about
And I'm
it.
sure
And I'm sure
they kept dropping
kept
small
dropping
hints
small
like
hints, like
introducing me to the
introducing
term
me to the term
adoption
adoption
and telling
and
me
telling
various
me various
stories
stories that were
that was related to
related to
adoption,
adoption,
like the
like
Lord
the
Krishna
Lord
stories,
Krishna stories,
and likewise,
and likewise,
which kind of
which
helped
kind of
ease the blow. But obviously, at that age, I don't know how much I actually processed and understood about what it really was. So the first official time I remember being told about my adoption by my mom was when I was 9 years old. I think I was in the fifth grade. And there were a lot of hugs and tears, and it was a bittersweet experience, but it was genuinely a beautiful moment.
How? I mean, what kind of questions did you have? What was going on in your mind at that point in time when you actually had this heart-to-heart conversation?
So
So
I had questions
had
about
questions about
what it
what
means and
it
where I
means
came
and where I
from
came
because I was
from
only
because
nine
I was
years
only
old.
9 years
I
old.
didn't really
Didn't really
understand
understand
too much,
too much,
but
but
yeah,
yeah, like
where am I
where am
from?
I
When did
from?
this
When did
happen?
this
How did you
happen?
get
How did you
free?
get free?
So those kind of
So those kind
questions.
of questions.
And what do you remember the conversation? What did your mom say to you, and how did you
Let me
So
process?
tell
let me
you
tell
the
you
Lord
the
Krishna
Lord
story.
Krishna story.
It's
It's
like
like
we're kind of a
we're
religious
kind of a religious
family.
family.
So she
So
told me
she
that
told me that
like
like
Lord Krishna was
Lord Krishna
taken
was
by
taken
another
by
family.
another
You are my
family. You
Lord
are my
Krishna,
Lord
right?
Krishna, right?
So yeah, it was
So
Right.
kind
yeah,
of
it was
like that.
kind of like
So
that.
it was an
So it was an
association. So it
association.
was
So
kind of
it was kind of
normalized for me, like it
normalized
has
for me,
happened
like it has
before.
happened before.
And then she gave
And then
me
she gave
a
me
few
a
more
few more
children who are
children who
adopted.
are
Gave
adopted,
me the names of
gave me the
them.
names of
So
them.
it was
So it was
like I was not
like I was
alone,
not
and it's
alone,
a very
and it's a
common
very
thing.
common thing.
That's how it was
That's how it
introduced to
was
me.
introduced to me.
That makes
Great,
sense.
That makes sense.
great. What about you, Ahana? How has the experience been? For you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I haven't
I
had
haven't
any
had
such
any such
conversation.
conversation.
Like we didn't
Like
sit
we didn't
down and
sit
have the
down and have the
conversation. So
conversation.
since I
So
was
since
really
I was
small,
really small,
like I
like
didn't have any
I didn't have any
understanding of things
understanding
and I
of things and
couldn't
I
read
couldn't
or
read
write.
or write.
So at that
So
point
at
of
that
time,
point of time,
they
they
introduced the whole
introduced the
thing of
whole thing of
adoption through
adoption through
stories.
stories.
So
So
little
little
I
by
got
little,
a
I got
hold
a
of
hold
it, and
of
I
it, and
understood
I
what
understood
had
what had
happened.
happened.
So
So
with age and
with age
everything,
and everything, I
it was
got
more
it was
easier
more
for me to
easier for me to
accept
accept
the
the
whole thing.
whole thing.
And
And
when I grew
when
up,
I
also
grew
my
up,
mother
also
would
my
take me
mother
to
would take me
missionaries
to
of
missionaries
charity,
of
and then
charity,
I
and
would
then
meet
I
the
would meet the
sisters.
sisters.
And
And
my mother
my
showed
mother
me
showed
which
me
bed I
which
was
bed I
in,
was in,
and everything.
and
Everything was very
everything was
open and
very open and
transparent.
transparent.
So it was
So
easy
it
for
was
me
easy
to
for me to
understand and
understand
process
and
the whole
process the
thing.
whole thing.
So, at what age did you start going in over there to the missionaries of charity, and how has your interaction been? Like, do you remember any snatches of the conversations that you've had with probably the sisters over there, or any questions that probably did crop up? I know it's been a long time, but any recollection of the conversations that you've had?
I have
I
been
have
going
been
there
going
since I
there
was like
since I was
really,
like
really small,
really
like
small,
my
my
childhood.
childhood.
Okay.
So, and
So,
the sisters
and the
there are like
sisters there are
really
like
sweet.
really sweet.
They
They
will
will
guide you.
guide
They
you.
will
They
take you
will
to
take you
all
to
the
all
places
the
you want to
places you
go. You
want to
want to
go.
play
You
with
want
the
to play with
children
the
there.
children
You
there.
can play
You
with the
can play with the
children.
children.
So I
So
never
I
had
never had
any
any
question as
question
such.
as such.
So it was just the
It was just the
normal
normal
outing I
outing
had
I
with
had
them
with
and
them
time I
and time I
spent with
spent
them.
with them.
Okay. So, one thing's very clear from what both of y'all have said is that it's very important to have these absolutely open and candid conversations. So that comes to my next question. So, Ahana, you are a single child, but Amisha, you are the second of three siblings, and you have bio siblings, right? So has there been any kind of a very awkward or a weird moment where people either in the family or um, outside anywhere, within the society have kind of commented or spoken behind the back or whatever, or you've heard snatches of conversation saying, "Oh, she's been adopted" and things like that?
So,
Not
not that
that
I
I
would
would
know,
know,
because I'm
because
sure
I'm
they
sure
would
they
tell
would
my
tell my
parents.
parents.
But
But
I think
I think
it
it
was a
was
very
a very
smooth
smooth process.
process, and I gelled with my family and my siblings really well, and, nothing that I know of. I think it was really easy and normal, at least for
At
me.
least
You
for
can
me,
ask that
you
to
can
my
ask that
parents
to my
later.
parents later.
Great. Yeah. So there is, because as adoptive parents, we do come across this thing where people come and tell us, "Oh my God, you've done such a great thing," and we wanted to adopt, but we could never do it. And but for people like us, where we have gone ahead and done it because we find that that's like a very normal way to grow your family, right? It becomes very awkward for us, or maybe because we're like old enough and we understand society and we have our own ways of thinking, that we look at such conversations in a different way. Dr. Shatabdi Das, what is your take on this? Have you had this experience where people have come and said, "Oh, you've done such a great thing, and we've never been able to do it, though we want to"? And how have you fielded those questions and reacted?
I have not faced any such question because in our family, everybody was very much supportive for our decision, and in our friend circle also, they are very much supportive. They took it very naturally, and I have not faced any this type of question so far.
That's very heartening to know. So um, now, Amisha, growing up, this is a bit of a very important question, especially for a lot of new adoptive parents who have this kind of underlying fear within them. With regard to their children. So, growing up, did you ever feel that your life would have been different if you were not adopted?
So, I think
So
that's a
I think
very
that's a very
normal
normal
question an
question
adoptee
an
asks
adoptee
themselves.
asks themselves.
It's like
It's
human
like
nature to keep
human nature to
questioning your
keep questioning your
situation, your
situation,
choices,
your
like, oh
choices.
my
Like,
God, would
oh
I
my God,
actually
would I
study for
actually
that
study
test
for
that I've
that test
passed?
that I've passed?
So,
So
yeah, I think it's, yeah, of course, I've asked myself that question, and I think that's a coping mechanism that all kids use. Maybe, and I think it's a little easier for adoptive children to use at that age, because you kind of think of, oh, maybe my life would have been better, especially when your parents come and shout at you for maybe breaking a glass. So yeah, my biological parents would have never done that to me. So it's a coping mechanism that you develop. But once, like with age, when you mature, you realize that, I mean, that's completely wrong, and you grow out of it in a way. So I'm sure I've obviously asked myself that question, and honestly, now every time I think about it, just makes me more grateful for being adopted, because now I have a permanent loving family, and of course a dog that makes up for it. So yeah.
Great, great. What about you, Ahana? How has it been for you?
Yeah, so
yeah, so
for me, it
for
has
me it
been
has
more
been more
different.
different.
Like I have
Like
never
I have
felt that
never
I
felt
am
that I am
special or
special or
something
something
different than the
different than
normal
the
children
normal
ever.
children
Like throughout
ever.
my
Like
school
throughout my
life
school
or
life
in
or
my
in
friends
my friends
circle also.
circle also,
I was
I
completely
was completely
normal and
normal and
gelled pretty
gelled.
well with everyone, and never felt that I am adopted or something different, or I should do something differently or feel differently. And thankfully, my friend circle and school circle never made me feel in such a way, also. So, in that way, I think it has been very smooth for me, and I never considered myself different, also. We are all the same at the end.
Right. So I think just to add on to this, Amisha, probably you and Dr. Shatabdi can go for this. So I'm the parent to an adoptive child and a bio child, and my adopted one is like she's the younger one. She's 3.5, and as all today's parents, we are also like very open about it. We do tell her stories about Krishna and of course other things as well. And there's this concept of a tummy baby and a heart baby, and now the questions have started coming in. So she asks, and she's seeing like a neighbor of mine who is pregnant and my sister who's pregnant, and then she's like, so which tummy did I come from? Did you have these kind of questions while you were growing up?
I'm sure
I'm sure I
Like,
did. Like,
I
I
had
had
this
this
meeting
meeting
with my
with
mother.
my
Like,
mother. Like, we were talking about how much like the
pit in her
pit
stomach
in
or
her
something.
stomach or something.
And I
And
asked,
I
like,
asked,
why
like,
any trouble?
why any
My mom
trouble?
said,
My
no, you
mom
want
said, no,
any
you
trouble.
want
So I
any
remember
trouble. So I
this
remember
was
this
before
was
she
before
told me
she
that I
told
was
me
sick.
that I was like
Clearly told me that I
clearly
was
told
sick.
me that I was sick.
So of course I
So
had
of
these
course I
questions,
had these questions, and
my parents have
my
dealt with
parents
it
have dealt
really
with it
well.
really well.
So, do you remember what kind of answers they gave you at that point in time? Any idea?
Um,
Um,
Not
Not
I
so.
don't
I
ask me
don't
why am
ask
I
me
born
why
in
am I
Kolkata
born in
because my
Kolkata? My
brother is born in
brother is born in
California and my
California,
sisters
and my
born
sisters
here.
born here.
So I was like, why
So
am
I was
I
like,
there?
why
That
am
would
I
be
there? That would be
fine.
my family.
So
So
at that time
at
I
that
remember
time, I
she
remember
knew
she
we
knew
had
we
work and
had
all
work
that
and
there.
all that there.
But then
But
yeah,
then
slowly
yeah,
she
slowly
so
she
bit by bit
bit by bit
when
when
I was a little
I was a
mature,
little
we
mature,
would
we would
slowly
slowly
unravel it for me.
unravel it for me.
Okay. What about you, Ahana? Any such questions that you had growing up?
Uh,
Not any
Not
such
any
questions,
such
but yes,
questions, but yes,
I'm trying to
I'm trying to
remember.
remember
When I was like
when I
very
was like
young,
very
so my
young, so
mother
my
was
mother
sick.
was sick.
So
So
her
her
stomach was
stomach was
bulged out,
bulged
like
out,
she
like
looked
she
pregnant.
looked pregnant.
So at that
So
time,
at that
I
time,
thought
I
that
thought
she was
that she
pregnant.
was pregnant.
Then I started
Then I
thinking
started
that
thinking
if
that
I am
if I
adopted,
am
how can we
adopted,
get
how can we
pregnant
get
now?
pregnant now?
So
So
that was a
that
very
was a very
confusing phase, and
confusing
then
phase,
they
and
made me
then they made
understand
me
that no,
understand that
she's
no,
sick and
she's
she
sick
needs
and
an
she needs an
operation.
operation.
So I
Okay.
was like,
So I
oh,
was like,
okay.
oh, okay.
Right. Dr. Shatabdi, have you as a parent faced this question from your son? And, if yes, how have you dealt with it?
No, I
No,
haven't
I
faced
haven't
such question, but
but
because I have started to
started to
discuss the discuss past
the past
when
when
you were
when
very
we
studying that
studied that
3 to 4 years
4
old.
years old.
He told
He
him,
told
him
him
we have
we
a
have
kid
no
that we wanted to have a little one in our family like you. Then we went to a home there where there were so many tiny babies like you, and you were for me. Only you were ready for me, only for us. And then they gave us, they gave us and you, and we took you in our home, and from then you are with us, and that is all. Nothing, nothing more. And it is a very natural phenomena in our society. And as he was too tiny that time, he understood it. He realized this fact in his own way. How he realized that we don't know, but he realized the fact. It is all.
That's wonderful. I mean, and these small things. While we
Regarding these two, he didn't make any question further. He didn't ask me anything till now. He always tell that you are my parents, you are my all. He always tell this.
that's very heartening, and it kind of quells a lot of underlying fears that are there, and these are all like self-generated fears that everybody has. I mean, be it a child, be it a parent, because everybody's kind of going through this process of for the first time, and there are questions that are left unanswered. And I think a good thing about platforms like Pragnaa or Atmaja is that people can actually go ahead and openly talk about them, and they have experiences coming their way So when stories are shared, when people share their experiences across various situations, because not everybody goes through all situations, but nobody has that unique thing of going through a situation only by themselves. Somebody might have gone through a similar phase, as someone else, and this kind of sharing, this kind of understanding and conversations are what kind of help people come out of their situations where they're worried about whether they will be able to handle a situation, whether they will be able to have a conversation, whether there are solutions out there. And then that is, I think, one of the greatest steps that we together as heart families can make adoption all the more normalized. It's a very normal thing. It's just that it's got a certain level of social stigma around it, or a little bit of discomfort around it, and that's what we're trying to quell. So coming back to our discussion, Dr. Shatabdi, again a question for you. We found that many new adoptive parents, especially those who reach out to us at Pragnaa for guidance, from the bottom of their heart, they want to normalize the concept of adoption, and they want to speak about it openly. And this is not just, about first-time parents, but it's also about parents from mixed families where they already have like a bio child as well. And they are trying to make a lot of effort to speak about adoption, but they always feel a little uncomfortable. Have you as a parent faced this anytime? And, if you have, how have you kind of dealt with it?
No, in fact, this type of problem because I have already told that in our family everybody was very much supportive. In fact, they told us to make the decision for adoption. This was first told by my mother-in-law and my mother also. So everybody was very much supportive, and everybody, my son never felt any problem, any in any family gathering or any other occasion that he is adopted or he is somebody different from the other children of our family. We never faced this type of problem, and also we have never faced any problem, this type of problem in family or in our close friends circle. We didn't have any problem. Everybody
That's
loves me very much. Everybody is very much supportive.
that's very heartening to know. So, Amisha, Ahana, open question to both of you again. According to you, from an adoptee perspective, how do you think adoption can be normalized?
Um, do you want me to go?
Yes, please.
Anything?
So I think adoption should be treated as just another way of having a baby. Like, let's be honest, nothing prepares you for raising even a biological child. And although there may be some truth to the fact that parenting an adopted child might be a little trickier, at the end of the day, it's just a child. So I think there's a lot of taboo around the topic, even among parents who have adopted themselves and they want to keep it a secret from their child. So my naturally biased opinion is that adoption is the most beautiful thing someone can do it. And if you have adopted or are adopted, then own it. All it comes down to is talking openly about it. Because if you're not comfortable with it, no one else around you will be. So first learn to accept it yourself, and then help your child accept it, and then talk about it with your children like any other topic you would talk about, and encourage others who want to adopt.
No, great. I completely agree with you. What about you, Ahana? What do you have to say?
Yeah, so we often come across this thing like we adopted children and adopted parents also place this statement that my child is adopted or I am adopted. When we talk to someone or we introduce ourselves, we sometimes tend to do that. Many people do. So So I got to thinking, and I thought, do biological children and their parents come up and introduce themselves with this statement, I am a biological child? I don't think so. So why do we do it? Why do we need to do it? Is it necessary? Is it something very different that we need to state as our identity? I don't think so. Like I mean, we are normal like everyone else. Why should that be part of our identity, or when we are introducing ourselves? I don't think so. It starts from the roots actually. And as Amisha also said, like adoptive parents themselves need to be more accepting and open about it. Many adoptive parents I have also come across who hide the fact from their children and are ashamed of it. And I just can't understand why. I mean, why would you take that step if you yourself are so shy and closed about it? You need to be accepting to let others accept your child.
Just to add to this, Ahana, so probably this, and this is from the conversations that we've had with a lot of adoptive parents, right? This could also be stem from the fact that they're making an effort to normalize it, and over a period of time, they feel that the more we talk about it, the more normalized it becomes. But it's good to hear, like, a child's perspective. Yeah, I do agree that after a point in time, sometimes it can become a little overwhelming. It can, lead to a conversation as to why do you have to say that I am adopted. Maybe they need to be cognizant about the fact that the child might not like being, called out as being adopted or being special at every given point in time. So yes, absolutely, and this is a very important note for a lot of adoptive parents out there. It's good to talk about the fact that you are an adoptive parent, you've adopted a child, and you've grown your family in a very different way, but understand that there's a certain limit to how much you need to talk about this. And later, after you do your initial set of normalization, just let it be. Let life just move on the way it should ideally be, even when you are with your biological child. And as Ahana mentioned, you don't necessarily go about saying, oh, I've given birth to this child and I've adopted this child. You don't do that, or either you do both, and just normalize the whole process that, this is how our family is. So, great point, Hannah. In fact, I see a lot of comments coming in from our audience on social media, and there's a lot of kudos going out to both of you on bringing out, what is your take on the whole concept of adoption, and how do we need to, normalize this. Tapas Das says, oh, sorry. We have Tapasda says that that everybody must benefit as a child, and any child, parents do get attached to them, and that's the most beautiful emotion that is there. And Digangana says that again, Ahana, she says kudos to you for bringing up such a beautiful point. So coming back to our discussion for today, Amisha and Ahana, again, there are a lot of adoptive children who do try to look for their birth mothers, and it is legal in India that after you hit 18 years, you are allowed to go back and look for your biological roots. But unfortunately, in India, still adoption is a very closed affair. It's not an open, engagement that is there. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I have a lot to say about this, so bear with me. But I think that I think it sucks that I think everyone has a right to know about everything about themselves, and like the underdeveloped systems in India have sort of taken away that right. In fact, like just a few years back, there was no Kara, so you could just pick and choose your child. Not exactly, but in a way. And so there was barely any information on the child. But I mean, NGOs are coming up and organizations are coming up to help streamline the process. So hopefully, it'll be better for the future children. So, keeping that aside, I know there's a fear among parents about this whole biological family connection that the child might develop if they ever get to meet them. So, here's a disclaimer to put you at ease: your child is not going to pack their suitcase one fine day and leave to live with their bio family. That kind of stuff only happens in super exaggerated movies. For a couple of decades, you've been their family, and suddenly connecting with their past is not going to sever the bond you've built with them over the years. So maybe this urge to find our bio family isn't us saying we want them and we don't need you or like you anymore. It's just us saying we want to know the truth about us, which I think is a fair ask. So you must realize that this overwhelming desire may only last for a few years, and like maybe when I'm sitting, hopefully giving another talk 20 years down the line, it may not even matter to me half as much as it might have mattered to me earlier. So, as a parent, embrace the process. Don't fear it. What is important for you as a parent is to facilitate your child with whatever is in your power to help them during the stage, because somewhere your child may be a little lost, and a few years down the line, your support will go a long way and only strengthen the relationship with them. But of course, that's my opinion.
No, great points shared there. What about you, Ahana? What do you think?
The whole situation on adoptees trying to find their biological parents and our system is actually very heartbreaking. And I think this comes down to our basic human rights or rights, that our right to know where we came from, whom we came from, whom. Uh, it just comes down to our basic rights, I think. And it is not because, as Amisha said, that we want to build another life or just run away or something like that. It is basically to help us understand ourselves better, I think, and to find our roots somewhere, to just find a connection, or to just know that they exist or they don't exist, or just curiosity, basic curiosity. So it comes down to our basic rights, that we should have the right to know or get information regarding our biological parents, or yeah.
Um, Yeah, okay. So that said, I have a bit of what do you say, information to share, or a story to share. So and this is again from the experience that we have had as counselors, or be not, I wouldn't say official counselors, but as a support group, and we keep meeting with a lot of adoptive parents and adoptive children. So I, for one, am totally open, for adoption. So tomorrow, if my daughter tells me that she wants to go back and trace her biological roots, I think I would be the first one to go all out and help her, because it's, like you said, I believe it's her birthright to know, about her own life, the reality of her life. And open adoptions definitely are a welcome move for, quite a few people. But with many adoptive parents that I have spoken to, they're quite uncomfortable about it, and I think that is because of certain instances that have happened. So, like Amisha mentioned, so before Kara, things were not very what do you say, streamlined. And I have heard of stories where one of the biological fathers traced back and found his biological daughter, who was adopted, and he's practically kind of latched on to that family and is leeching off of them, and it's still happening. I'm not kind of going into specifics, but it's happening, and that family is just kind of taking in everything because they feel obligated. So there are such instances also that have happened. So probably these are some of the underlying fears that are there, because of which people are not really driving the fact that they want to have like open adoptions, at least not from the parents' perspective. But as adoptive children, maybe if a whole, what do you say, a force can be formed, and you do kind of rally for open adoptions, but with a lot of legal aspects in place, wherein everybody is like emotionally, physically, and is safe. They're all in a safe space. I think it's a fantastic thing to do, because it does give a lot of what do you say, a comfort level for everyone without too much of heartache, because we do come across a lot of adoptees who reach out to us, or who put up posts on social media, especially those who have been adopted outside of India, who say that we want to understand, this is where we were, we were at this home, we were adopted on so and so date. The little bit of information that we have is our mother was here, or she gave birth to me on at so and so hospital, at on so and so place, by this particular doctor. But and they're unable to trace their roots back, and there's a lot of frustration that is pent up from within. So I do hope children like you all come together and rally for this, and make this whole process like absolutely open and a very beautiful experience for everyone. That said, we have a question from one of our online viewers who asked, what was the first reaction or feeling when the news, it's one thing to be spoken about, the concept of adoption being spoken about within the family, but when it actually hit you, what was your reaction at that point in time? Any of you can go for it.
Okay, so like I said, there were a lot of tears and a lot of hugs, and yeah, it was a little down moment maybe, but then it was also kind of liberating to know that. I always thought that I was adopted, but there was no surety of it, and I hadn't really asked. So I think it was kind of liberating, and then I, I may have felt sad for like an hour or two, but then I remember going and running and telling my sister, like, oh my god, you need to know this about me. So it I think you get over it, and the first reaction was obviously sadness, but then after that, it was just a cool thing about me that I knew.
That's great. What about you, Ahana? How has it been? I mean, do you remember? Was there a moment where it really hit you?
There hasn't been any specific moment as such. Another reason being, our group as much. We have been associated with them since I was really small. So, being associated with a group of adoptive parents and adoptive children since such a small age, and also trying to understand my process, I guess I never had this distinct feeling or question or anything because I was growing up with that group, this group of adoptive parents and children. So it was very normal for me. I saw another world where people like me also exist. So I thought this is the normal, and didn't really feel anything very distinctively different.
Um, I think what you've said, is a very important thing. So again, out to all the adoptive parents over there, please do have meetings and very casual get-togethers with a lot of other heart families, because it kind of helps you in your quest towards normalizing adoption as such, and it even helps the children kind of understand that this is nothing different, it's nothing new. Then you don't really have to go about saying she's my adopted child or he's my adopted child or I'm an adoptive parent. I think it becomes so much normal that for everyone it's like, ha, theek hai, so what? I mean, one was born and one came home from the heart, and that's about it. And it kind of helps them grow into very emotionally strong people as well, because they know that it's such a common thing, and if they ever need any support, if they need any guidance at any point in time, there's still this group that they can go back to. So please do engage with a support group for parents, for children, and together as a family. We have a question from one of our audience members, Bhagyam Anantaraman Arvind. Do children get scared emotionally about where it would end? As in, do you think, and they're also asking about, whether 18 is a good age emotionally to deal with finding your biological family. So, any thoughts on this? Open to all three of you.
I didn't understand the first one. More children get scared emotionally when
So, as in, the moment, I think what she's trying to ask is that, do you think that when children kind of get to know that they're adopted, so emotionally, do they believe that, okay, this is the end of it, and I don't think I'm going to be loved, or, I'm always going to be treated differently? So, do you think that have you at least, Ahana, probably you could answer that part of the question, because you've been a part of a larger group, right? Have you come across any situations where any of the children have kind of spoken about this, saying that pata nahi kab khatam hoga ye, anything of that sort that's happened?
Yes, so I I have heard of these stories and situations where a child did not take the whole news of them being adopted very well. They did not accept the fact, they did not react very well to it. And then the whole equation between them and their parents also becomes very it becomes very difficult, because then he questions his parents also, like, why have you, like, if there's another situation, like if you tell your child about adoption at a later age, or at an age where they understand things and already know about things, at that point of time it is very very difficult for a child to accept it, because at that time the thing of trust comes inside, that why would you lie to me all these years, why didn't you mention this to me before, why are you stating this now? So the whole trust factor comes into that, and after that there are thousand million other questions. Say, then where did I come from, and every other question, that you don't love me enough or something like that. Many people do not react well to this. I have seen many.
Um, what have you seen as a solution in such situations? Do you think counseling has helped them?
Yes, counseling will definitely help them. Not only them, they need to work along with their parents, because it is the whole family involved in the situation together. It is not just the child who is involved. It is their parents also, because they are a part of it. The whole family together needs to work their way through this whole situation. Otherwise, the whole commotion keeps growing and getting worse.
Great. Thanks for sharing this, Ahana. I think it was a very important question. So, maybe, while you're here, before we ask Amisha about this, do you think 18 is a good age to deal with these emotions of, wanting to find the birth family?
Yeah, 18 is an age where you say we are an adult, but like Amisha is very mature. She has a proper understanding. She has that emotional stability to process this whole thing. Many children who are 18 aren't that emotionally stable to process the whole thing, to accept it. So I do not think 18 is the right age for everyone. Just because it states that we are an adult, at that point it is not.
Right. What about you, Amisha? What do you have to say about this?
So I think
I think
it's different
it's
for
different for
I think it's
I
different for
think it's different for
everyone,
everyone,
according to
according to
their
the um,
emotional
emotional
capability.
capability.
And yeah, I
And yeah,
think
I think
maybe
maybe
you're a little too
you're a
young.
little too
Like
young. Like
I don't
I
think
don't
that
think
I
that
have
I
the
have
ability
the
to deal with
ability to
it
deal with it
right now.
right now.
But it's
But it's
obviously different for everyone. So I think depending on how your child has responded over the years to various things that you've told them about adoption, you can make a call according to that.
Absolutely. Dr. Shatabdi, what about you? What do you believe? Do you think 18 is a good time where children would be emotionally okay to go ahead and find their roots? Or do you think that there needs to be a lot of preparation before they make the decision to start the search?
I think it is very necessary to. It depends on their mental stability. That Ahuna already said that it depends on their mental maturity. I should say their mental maturity, and um, when they realize that it is very necessary to find out their biological parents, only then he or she could start this process of knowing their biological parent. But if they don't think that it is necessary, then there is there is no problem at all. There is no problem. If they don't think that it is necessary to find out their biological parents, and if they think that it is necessary to find out the biological parents, then they could proceed for this. But it is not only that in the age of 18 they only should start the process. When they feel that this is necessary, then only they can proceed for the process. Of course, it is after 18 years, but not that in after crossing 18 years, immediately after crossing 18 years, they should proceed. That is not necessary. When they will feel that this is necessary, only then they could proceed for this.
Absolutely. So,
Can I just
yes,
add on to
Amisha.
that?
Yeah, 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 sure.
Yeah, I think at any stage in life, I don't think anything's going to prepare you 100% for it. There will always be that fear factor, or that something that will always maybe make you scared. So I don't think there's a pinpointed right age that you can say, okay, now I'm ready. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Absolutely. So, as you all three mentioned, there's a certain level of emotional maturity that is required, from the child as well, when before they begin their search for their, biological family or any family member. But at the same time, they also need to be cognizant of the fact that there might have been a reason why, even the parent or the mother might have kind of given up the child. Probably it could be cases like, unwed mothers, and now probably they have a family and they don't want that disrupted. You can't think of that as a selfish motive, but I think it's just self preservation that they're looking at. And this is just one of many situations that are possibly there. So, yes, there is a lot of emotional maturity that is required, a lot of empathy that is required. So, if any of y'all out there are intending, to begin your search for your families, or or your prospective, or your parents who are watching the show today, and your children are probably at the verge of, beginning this conversation of wanting to meet their birth families, please ensure that you'll have a support group in place. You'll, as a family, the way Hannah suggested, meet with a counselor, have like an open heart to heart conversation, discuss the entire pros and cons of this entire search. You may or may not be successful in this, like the way Dr. Shatabdi mentioned, but be prepared for whatever is the outcome. Probably you're like super excited and you do get to, trace back the family. But if your birth parent is not happy seeing you for whatever reasons, they might be worried about their own existence, what might happen to them with their current life right now. Be aware of the fact that they're also emotionally traumatized. It wouldn't have been easy, to give up a child. I mean, it's never easy to give up a child, and it's a very difficult decision. So, understand all of that. Let's look at this whole quest, with a lot of empathy to begin with, and a lot of emotional maturity, as all our panelists mentioned today. Before you begin your search, or if you are in your search as well, just ensure that you reach that stage of maturity while you're in your quest. So, we have some wonderful comments coming in. Swapan Naskar says, it's really wonderful to see our children are so confident in taking our over our job. Thanks, Ahana and Amisha. And takeoff, as always, beautiful for those who are flying and also for those who are watching the takeoff. It's time that we hand over our baton. You all are so much ready. Wonderful. So it's wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Swapan, and wonderful job, Amisha and Ahana. It's really heartening, to see such maturity and such wonderful open conversations that you all have with, people. So, my last question for today, again for y'all, is that what has been the most beautiful experience that you've had through the entire disclosure process? Anytime it can be, because there are different questions that pop up at different ages. You might have had certain questions when you were 3, and probably different questions when you were 6, different when you were 9, different when you were 12. So at every given stage, among all of these, has there been like one very memorable, very beautiful moment that you still cherish about the whole disclosure process?
I mean, nothing was really too, but I don't know about disclosure as such, but just meeting other adopted kids, I think it's just really really sweet for me. Like, I remember this one girl. I know them as family friends, and she was from the same shelter as I was. So just when she came home, it was I just felt like an instant connection, and uh, it was just really beautiful for me. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
No, no, no. It's your experience. So whatever you share. I mean, we can feel the emotion. I think that's the small moments make a huge difference as well. What about you, Ahana?
Yeah, exactly. I found a lot of joy and a lot of happiness knowing when I met other adopted children. Like in my school, when I figured out that like few of my classmates were adopted too, or my seniors, or this group of Atmaja when I met everyone, and how close I became with all of them. Like that whole connection of just being adopted just works somehow between two people, and then you click off and then you become real good friends. So I guess that is a really beautiful journey, and that is really nice.
Great. What about you, Dr. Shatabdi? As a parent, what's been the most beautiful experience that you have had, during the disclosure phase?
You told earlier that we started the process of disclosure that when my son was only 3 to 4 years old. So he was not in the age to understand the biological process or anything like that. But he realized the fact in his own way. How he realized that I didn't know, but he realized somehow the fact, and he he uh, he realized the fact, and mm, the main thing, that is the natural bonding which has been formed between our child and us. That is the main thing, and this was the cause of happiness in our life, in our family, and that was the most happy moment and happy event in our life so far. And that is the thing I should say. There is nothing like that. That is in one fine morning he realized the fact, and we were very much happy that he has realized. And that is not like that, but in course of time he realized it, and he always say that you are my all, and uh, I am your child. That is the only truth, and this relationship should be based on the truth. I think the relationship between the child and the parents, that should be based on the truth, and it has become a part of our life, and he has realized that is the main thing that he has realized. Somehow he has realized, and it was a happy moment.
Very, very important point that you said. So the relationship altogether has to be based on the truth, and I think that is irrespective of how you grow your family or how you have your child. The relationship should be absolutely truthful in any given point in time. That said, we have a compliment for both of you, Amisha and Ahana, from Smriti Gupta, who says, very nice to hear your perspective, and she thanks you all for it. And we have a question from Manjari Ghosh. I think, Ahana, this is probably directed towards you. They're asking, is it important to take the child to visit his or her first home? And does this have to be done through their growing up period?
Okay, so first of all, it is not completely necessary or important. It is completely your decision. What I gained out of the visits in the home is that it helped me understand better the whole process. It helped me see where I was, from where I came, to accept it. The acceptance part was much more easier for me to see my bed, to see the sisters who took care of me, to see where I was staying all that time before I got adopted. So it helped me to accept the process more.
As
It
a
is
follow
not
up,
at all necessary.
as a follow up to that, what do you think is the right age to start taking the child back, to their home if there are parents who are considering that?
I think from a young age, since there are more children, orphans who are there very young, and they can go and play with them, interact with them. You are allowed to do that. So once you go and interact with them, also um, you find a connection and you start talking. You understand things better also. And at that, when you are younger, you have a tendency to accept things more easily and try not to question them too much. And you get along with people also much more easily. So at a playful age, at a younger age, I guess if they started, it would be better than suddenly taking them when they are 18 or something and they have their own life. But 18-year-old child wouldn't want to go to a home and sit with other children. They'll be like, I want to go home.
Right. Dr. Shatabdi, as a parent, what do you have to say about this? Do you think it is important?
Couples they are childless, and day by day the number is increasing. So they should take the decision about adoption, and it is both a process that the parents uh, they will have a kid, and the kids who are orphan they will get a family, they will get parents, and that is it is a both way process, and it will be very much I think it is very much uh, healthy process in our society, and this should be more propagated, and this should be more encouraged to take the decision between the adoptive parent or uh, uh, and the child will get a family that is very much necessary for developing a healthy uh, environment, healthy process in our society.
Right. That said, a few more lovely comments coming the way. We have Anhita Naskar who says, nice to hear you both, Ahana and Amisha, and she's sending a lots of love to you. And she also says, Shatabdi auntie also said very well. So, wonderful discussion to, thank you to all of you for this uh, beautiful session today. And we have Mr. Swapan saying disclosure is something which should not be a news item but a gradual, natural flow of information. That said, we are coming to the end of our session for today. Ahana, Amisha, Dr. Shatabdi Das, thank you very much. It was a very enlightening discussion, and I think a very pertinent and very important topic where we did touch upon quite a few points, and you all shared a lot of information about how important is disclosure and how to go about it the right way. And it's good to hear this from the children's perspective rather than the parents' perspective, because parents talk, but when they hear what children have in their mind, it gives them a completely different outlook altogether, because now they're sitting in the children's shoes and looking at how the whole concept of disclosure is from a child's point of view. So that's a very important thing, and I'm really glad and very thankful to you on behalf of Pragnaa and my team with Sahana as well as Digangana, that you all agreed to be here and share your thoughts, ideas, and your perspective with us. Dr. Shatabdi Das, it was wonderful talking to you, and it's always so heartening to know that the relationship that you share with your child is so beautiful and so open. And as you said, it should always be based on, truth. And truth is when truth happens, or, truth is what kind of manifests itself when you have a very, very open conversation. So thank you very much for sharing your perspective with us. Have a lovely weekend, all of you, and we do hope to have more interesting, panel discussions with you all in the future as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take participate in this panel discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Shatabdi. Thank you, Ahana. Thank you, Amisha, once again. Yeah. Have a lovely weekend, everyone, at iAsia News as well as at Pragnaa. Thank you.